webinar. So hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here with you today. And in my webinar, and I named it A Taste of the Science of Happiness and How It Can Work for You. And I think I was thinking a lot about the name because there's so much information when you talk about happiness. And I really wanted to give you a taste of what it is, but also to leave you with some concrete research-based tools that will help you navigate through these difficult times that we go through now. I mean, nothing here is going to be earth-shattering, and a lot of things might look trivial for you. You may even been doing it already. I just think it's going to unclutter a little bit of the information that we have today, and just to put everything in perspective and give us some practical tools to use. Before we start, I want to start with some technical issues. First of all, if you're on your cell phone, you can move between the slides that I'm going to show you soon and between me just by tapping on the picture of me or of the slide. If you're on your computer or laptop, you have a view. You can just change the view to side by side, and you'll be able to see me and the slide. And you can choose which one looks better at any given time. So before I start with the presentation itself, I just would like to tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Tami Muller. I was born and raised in Israel, as you can tell by my American accent. And I came here around 30 years ago. I actually came here to be with my parents, who came a couple of years earlier to follow their own dreams. And 4 years after I came, my father passed away from a heart attack. It was very sudden. He was 59 years old, healthy and vivid, and all of a sudden, without any notice, he wasn't there anymore. And I was very, very close to him, and it was shocking, and the void was huge. But it really impacted me in two ways. The first one, I couldn't understand how can a person come to this world and do all these amazing things, and after 59 years, he disappears. There must be something more than that. There must be some legacy that we leave behind, and this was one part. And the other one was that I felt guilty at times that with all that mourning and sadness and crying, I actually felt happy. I actually felt, grateful for life. And it felt very strange for me. And this is when I started researching and reading. And, I read everything from the Celestial Prophecy to Eckhart Tolle. And until I came 2 years ago, I came across the Happiness Studies Academy that offered the first certificate in happiness studies taught by Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, who is an internationally renowned author and also a professor. And his course in Harvard University was actually one of Harvard's most attended courses in the history of Harvard. And I registered, and I found it very compelling because it wasn't about, hugging trees and thinking positive, but it was really science. And I really liked it. And I come from a business background. I have a master's degree in business and a bachelor's in economics. And what does a girl like me have to do in a field like that? But I really liked it, and I decided that that's what I want to do. And so I'm really happy to be here today and share all this information with you, and hopefully some of it, you will be able to benefit. I'm going to share my screen now, and I'll have to put my glasses for it. And okay, I hope you can see it. And I would like to talk a little bit about.
You can't see the screen yet.
You can't see the screen?
No.
I knew something is gonna share screen. Okay.
Good.
Good? Okay, sorry. So the question is, how can we talk about happiness now? Now we are all in a very different situation than what we're used to. We sit at home, most of us, we feel lonely. Some of us are anxious. We're worried about our parents, about our children. Some of us financially are distressed. So what is all this talk about happiness today? It kind of feels a little guilty maybe, or inappropriate to talk about happiness in times like that. And I will show you through this presentation that actually this is the right time to talk about happiness and to be happy, except for the fact that, it feels good to feel good. and that the pursuit of happiness is a pillar in the American Constitution and really a backbone of our culture. So with your permission, I will go to the science of it. First of all, let's think, why does it even matter to be happy? Why is everybody so obsessed with this happiness thing? And what is the connection between being happy and being successful? And everybody who knows me, and a lot of you know me, you know that I always thought, and I really believed in the depth of my heart, that what stands between me and eternal happiness is 20 pounds. So I really thought that when I lose those 20 pounds, I'm going to be happy forever and ever. And, now I know today that it's not true. I know today that I still want to lose the 20 pounds, but my happiness is not really dependent on it. Now, each one of us has their own 20 pounds. You can ask yourself, what's yours? Is it a promotion? Do you want somebody like a new love, maybe some more money, more success? You want to get pregnant? You want to be a parent, a grandparent, whatever it is that we believe that stands between us and happiness. So we really, we were raised to believe that the happiness is the effect and the success is the cause. That if we succeed, we will be happy. Which, by the way, we will be. Okay, if I lose this 20 pounds, I will be, but it's very short-lived. There's a spike of happiness, but it's short-lived. It's not substantial. And I would like to introduce you to Dr. Sonia Lubimirski. She's a professor in psychology in the University of California, Riverside. And she does a lot of research and work about happiness and about positive psychology. And she concludes in her research, and I will put my glasses with your permission. The benefits of happiness include better relationships, better marriages, friendships, relationship with our kids, higher productivity, higher income, higher creativity, more social support, friends, stronger immune system. That's where it starts to be really relevant to us today. Stronger immune system, less stress, and they even live longer. So, this is kind of mind-blowing. What it's really telling us that we were wrong all this time, because the happiness is the cause and not the effect. And if we are happy and we know how to become happy and to maintain our happiness, then we will be able to achieve success in if it's more money, if it's more creativity, better relationship, or even to live longer and to be stronger. Basically, happiness, as she found out, it strengthens our immune system. Now, strong immune system is basically to be more resilient. And do I hear somebody? Okay, more resilient. And what is resilience? Resilience is really the ability to bounce back. The ability, I'm not saying that if we are more resilient, we're not going to be sick. We probably will be, maybe less often, and we will recover faster. Same thing psychologically. Yes, we're going to be sad, we're going to be worried, but less often, and we will be able to overcome it faster. So what is the definition of happiness, and why is it even important to define it? First of all, happiness is not something that you're either happy or you're unhappy. It's not a 1 or 0 equation. It's a continuum, and it's a spectrum. I can tell you that I'm happier today than I was 5 years ago, okay? And I probably want to be happier in 2 years than I am today. And I can always improve my happiness level, and I can always feel happier. And that's why really the book that Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar wrote, his name is Happier and Not Happy, because one can always be happier than what they are today. And by all means, I don't suggest that we should be happy in Corona times today. This is I don't suggest that, but I do suggest that we can become happier. And it's a lifelong journey. Just like some people were born with the genes to be skinny and they don't have to work on it, some do, like us. And some people were born with more affinity for happiness and they maybe have to work on it less. But generally, it's a lifelong journey and it's a practice. Now, the definition matters because if we know what happiness is, we will know how to pursue it and how to attain it. We will know what we're dealing with. And there are many definitions. You probably came across many definitions. Some of them you may like better than what I suggest. By all means, use it. I can tell you what we're working with. So the Happiness Studies Academy actually basing its definition of happiness on what Helen Keller said. And she said to me, the only satisfactory definition of happiness is wholeness. And wholeness is really a very holistic approach. What does it mean by wholeness? Wait. Wholeness is really the whole person well-being. It's across the board of all the elements. And we just call it whole being. We took the whole person well-being and we call it whole being. So now I'm telling you that happiness is whole being. Does it mean anything? I mean, what am I going to do with this whole being? Am I going to go out and start that to be more whole being? So no, we really have to take this word and break it into these elements for two reasons. Why? Once, because it really doesn't mean a lot. And the second, because of what we call the paradox of happiness. The paradox of happiness actually says, and it was a research done by Dr. Iris Moss, and it was called the dark side of happiness. And she found out that people that are very occupied, and I don't want to say obsessed, but very occupied with being happy and pursue happiness from the moment they wake up in the morning, they're actually less happy. They're lonelier and they're more depressed. So there was something about pursuing happiness in a direct way that doesn't contribute to a person's happiness the other way around. This is the paradox. So how can we resolve this paradox? I mean, we can't wake up in the morning and say, I'm not going to be happy actually today, wink, wink, and then I really am. So we need to find out what are the elements that we can pursue indirectly in order for us to be happy. And it's just like looking at the sun. You can't look at the sun because it's too bright. So in order for us to enjoy the light, we have to look at the rainbow because it breaks its element. And actually, and again, I'm going to put my glasses. John Stuart Mill, who was a British philosopher in the 1800s, said, "Those only are happy who have their minds fixed on some object other than their own happiness." You probably know it from yourself that there were times that you were obsessed and read everything available and went to every workshop in the world and it just didn't stick. It didn't add to your happiness. I would like to talk a little bit about this. So how do we find what are those elements that we need to shift our focus towards them, and by pursuing them, we will be happier? So the Happiness Studies Academy, Dr. Tal Ben Shahar and his colleagues, they did a research, global research through many disciplines, from philosophy and literature and art to psychology, neuroscience, and history. And they identified 5 elements, and here they are. So the first one is the spiritual well-being. Spiritual well-being means leading a meaningful life and mindfully savoring the present. The second element is physical, to care for our body and to tap into the mind-body connection. The third is intellectual, to be engaging in deep learning and opening to experiences. Be curious and always learn. Relational is nurturing a constructive relationship with self and others. And the last one is the emotional well-being, which feeling all emotions, reaching towards resilience and optimism. Now they took this model, they took the first letter and they acronymed it to the word Spire. So whenever I talk about Spire in this lecture, we're going to talk about Spire and Spire elements and Spire check. These are really the elements that we need to pursue in order to elevate our happiness. Now, these 5 elements are interconnected and they influence each other. So each one of them is important, but it's not enough. I'll give an example. It's not enough, let's say, just to be very high on my physical well-being. Let's say that I'm an athlete and it's really important for me, and at the same time neglect my relational or my spiritual well-being. Or it's not enough to only be intellectual. Maybe I'm a professor at the university and I study day and night, and at the same time, I neglect the physical or the relational. So this is really connected. Oh, please mute all the participants. Oh, I'll do it. Mute all. Wow, it was so easy to mute all. Okay. I think I like it. So from here, I would like to go and to talk about today and to be very practical. What can we do today to elevate our being in those Spire elements and to feel a little bit happier in our situation? So let's start with the spiritual well-being. the first thing that we need to do is to find meaning in everything that's happening to us today. So yes, social distancing. Um, why are we doing it? Why are we sitting alone at home and we can't see our parents and we can't visit our grandkids? What is the meaning of it? And the meaning of it is really to protect the people that we care about, to flatten the curve and to prevent the healthcare from collapsing. This is the meaning. And I would like to quote Nietzsche, and he said, he who has the why to live for can bear almost any how. And I know we are right after the Holocaust Memorial Day, and I just want to get some perspective that our life right now is not really that bad, and that if there is a meaning to it, I think it will be easier for us to be happy through those times. And the last thing is to break free. I read, I don't know, I think maybe Leah, maybe you sent it to me, that somebody said, my wife told me this is really not normal. And I said, what is normal? I mean, is it normal to sit in traffic all day? Is it normal to eat in restaurants where we can really, cook at home? Is it normal to run all the time and to look all over the world for things that we actually have at home? So in a way, I want to say it's going from slavery to freedom in many, many things. We don't have to do anything anymore. We don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to get dressed if we don't want to. And we find our own self. And I think it's a very good time to really take a break. And if you can go inside and try to break free of things that we did before that we didn't like to do. The second element of spiritual is mindfulness. And there are really two ways to practice mindfulness. The first one is formal meditation. I have to tell you that I could never meditate because my head is always spinning and I'm like thinking about so many things, but I finally found a way to do it. And there are very many different types of meditation, from transcendental to mindfulness, to music, to yoga. I'm sure you can try and find something. And there are so many websites and apps today that you can just download a free guided meditation, and maybe you want to start there, 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day. The research that shows the benefits, the physical benefits by doing meditation is enormous. Another way to meditate is in informal way. And the informal meditation is really to be present in the moment and to savor and to enjoy everything that we have. And whatever it is, I mean, I can sit in my garden and look at my mango tree for hours and I'm thinking, wow, I'm in awe for things that surround me, and I never took the time to really look and I would like to quote here, Henry Muller said, the moment one gives close attention to anything, even a blade of grass, it becomes a mysterious, awesome, indescribable, magnificent world in itself. And another one by Albert Einstein that I really like, he said, there are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. So we can take this time and try to really appreciate and enjoy what already surrounds us. Let's talk about physical well-being. Now, the first thing, of course, that goes without saying is eat well and exercise. And everybody who knows me probably thinks that what happened to her, she's going to talk about exercise because I really don't like to do it. But it is important to do it today. And we need to really silence this little voice in our, inside our head, because what happens is in a crisis mode, most of us say, oh, this is a great excuse for me now to stop exercising, and to eat comfort food and to drink that bottle of wine at night, to binge on some great chocolate cake, because it gives us comfort, but we know it's not good for us, okay? So we need to make better choices. And I don't suggest by any means that you will all start to buy expensive, organic food, because maybe it's not the time for it, but let's just be conscious and make better choices, in everyday life. Just make better choices. And when we talk about exercise, again, there's the formal and the informal. So by formal, there's so many classes today that it's like, and they're all free. And you can do yoga, you can do Pilates, you can do even Peloton is giving 3 months free. So you can do a lot of classes that are for exercise, or if you like me, you can just reframe it. And I don't call it exercise. I just walk outside and I call it a leisure walk. And I look at things that I like, or I listen to a really interesting book, and I just walk. So anything that we do is good. If we work in the garden, you know, my gardener doesn't come now, the cleaning lady doesn't come now, so we actually work, we do physical work. And this also, we take the dog out. This also contributes to our physical well-being. And the second thing that I want to talk about is the island, to create an island of sanity. And what do I mean by an island of sanity? I think now a little bit less, but we're sitting there, somebody's not on mute. We're sitting there and we're glued to the TV, we're glued to the news. And you know, you just have to ask yourself, do I know enough? And if I know enough, maybe it's enough and I can turn off the TV and the notifications. I don't think we need to know every hour how many people are sick, how many are are dead, how many are on ventilation. This is not something we need to know every hour. We can wake up in the morning, we can learn the situation a couple of times a day. And please, okay, I need to mute all. Yeah, I need to mute all. I thought I did, so maybe I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay.
I just gave Leia the hosting, so she's gonna be able to mute now.
Yeah, you do that, perfect. Okay, so you know, let's just practice that. And I know it feels in a way that we really are very attracted to the TV and to the news, but you always have to remember that the media is not a glass, it's a magnifying glass. And everything that we see in the media is magnified. And we just need to take a break, to just, you know, pull back and take a break. We need to distract ourselves. And I want to say that distraction normally is something bad. You know, I mean, when you look at distraction, it has a negative connotation. Today it has a positive connotation. We need to distract ourselves. If it's going out during the day and have a siesta, you know, most of us are either from Israel or, and you know, siesta was a great thing we used to do. You know, you just go and take a nap or go and read the jokes. We get so many jokes and so many, you know, funny things. Just break once every couple of hours, do it. I mean, we work so many Zooms. I think I'm completely zoomed out. You know, just leave it and go take a leisure walk. Just make yourself stop. And also don't worry about things that you have no control over. I think this is a very important thing, that people that are resilient and that are happy, they don't worry and ruminate about things that they have no control over. So try to think about it and be more aware of it. And I want to talk a little bit about mind and mind-body interaction. You know, the mind-body actually means that for every feeling that we have, there is a correlated posture, if you will. So, you know, when we do that in yoga and we do namaste and you try it with me and you'll feel it, that you really feel more gratitude. You feel more grateful. For example, if you do like the, you know, the Superman stance, you feel powerful. And if you want to feel joyful, it's an international body language. People do that, okay, like the little kid there, and they smile. And to smile actually have been found, you know, that not only it helps you feel better when you're happy, but it helps you feel better even when you're sad. This is called the facial feedback hypothesis, and it means that facial expressions affect our emotions. And the interesting thing is that it doesn't have to be a real smile. It can be a fake smile. So even if you don't feel like smiling and you really, maybe you're sad or you're stressed, if you smile or if you fake it until you make it, because it really works scientifically. And this is a really beautiful quote by Thich Nhat Hanh, who was a Vietnamese monk. And he said, sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy. So, you know, just fake it until you make it. Intellectual well-being. And intellectual well-being is really about being curious and learning. And I think today a lot of us are studying because there's so much available. But there are two different kinds of learning that I would like to talk about. And the first one is deep learning. What is deep learning? You know, in our every day, the pre-corona day, you know how we're just surfing. We don't read. They even have classes for fast reading. So everything is fast, and we never take the time to really do something slowly, to read a good text, if it's a Shakespeare, or if it's a concert, classical music, just to take the time and dive deep without interference into something that is interesting for us. Now, I just want to tell you, you don't even have to take the time to do it. The fact that it's in the area or around you is very beneficial. I remember when years ago when my kids were little, you know, the mornings were always so crazy, and I had 3 kids to send to 3 different schools. And I knew it was going to get really, really crazy. I would wake up half an hour before them, make my cup of coffee, and put a little bit of classical music. In the midst of all that craziness, you know, it was peaceful. It was much less hectic than it would be without it. So, you know, I really suggest that you try that. Also, if you have kids at home, you know, maybe you want to read The Wizard of Oz or to listen to Peter and the Wolf. You know, there are really a lot of interesting things that we don't have the time to do normally. And the second way of learning is to learn new skills. And again, you probably know that I never gave a webinar in Zoom before. And, you know, we just have to learn these new skills because there's nothing we can do. If we want to work and if we want to see our family and friends, the world is changing. We need to learn new skills. It could be technical, you know, like video chatting, or it can just be, you know, pick up a new instrument and study it. Pick up your French or Spanish. Do something neat. So I see people around me, they do amazing things in art. And it's really so enjoyable to do it right now. But the big thing is not just to study and to learn those new skills, but to actually do them. You know, it's kind of scary to start and do your first webinar or to jump and show your first painting. It's vulnerable and it's scary and it takes a lot of courage. But I would like to quote what Tal Ben Shachar says, and he says, courage is not about not having fear. It is about having fear and going ahead anyway. So be courageous, you know, learn something new and show it to the world. Relational well-being. This is the R in the Spire model. And it's been shown to be #1 predictor of happiness from all the other elements. Actually, there's a study done by Harvard, and they looked at, I think, like 1,300 people spanning 80 years, and after 80 years, and they looked at them, and they found out that the biggest predictor of happiness was relationship. Doesn't have to be romantic relationship or having a spouse, but relations with friends. You know, a man is not an island. We can be completely lonely. And it's relationship with oneself. And it was actually more important than money, than IQ, success, and even genes. So what can we do about our relationship well-being today? So yes, we prefer face-to-face. We are like really loving and touching, some of us at least, creatures, and we need to feel the warmth, and we need to hug our kids and to do all these things. We can do it today, okay? But there are ways that we can keep connected. So we need to remind ourselves that physical isolation is not social isolation. We still can be connected, and it's actually kind of fun because you can entertain and you don't have to cook and you don't have to clean. So there's, you know, some fun about it. I actually did a surprise party for my son. We had, I think 15 people from Israel and from everywhere. And we were all on Zoom. And when we came on Zoom, he screamed surprise and he was so happy. So, you know, be creative. There's so many ways to do it. I like to get dressed, you know, put my makeup, I put my perfume, and I feel really excited. And, you know, you find what works for you. You know what they say, dress up to the party that you want and not to the party that you're invited to. So this is really the first thing. The second is to strengthen the relationship with oneself and with others. And, you know, Eleanor Roosevelt once said, friendship with oneself is all important because without it, one cannot be friends with anyone else in the world. So I think this is a time for us, as we said, to go deeper and to know ourselves better and to get to know ourselves. Now, intimacy is really about knowing, know and be known. And it works both ways. It works for being friends, be intimate with ourselves and with our partners. So how can we get to know each other, ourselves better? So first of all, you know, we can create some type of a self-discovery journal. And if you Google it, you'll find a lot of prompts and ideas of how to do it. You know, just ask yourself, you know, like, what is this one thing that I always wanted to do and I didn't? What is my biggest regret? What 10 things that I really love about myself? If you want to do it electronically, you can just look at things that make you happy and just keep them. You know, this will actually show you your authentic self. And if you have a partner and you're stuck with somebody at home, then maybe you want to, instead of pulling your hair out, maybe you want to strengthen that intimacy with that person. And there are a lot of ways to do it. And I think we're doing it anyway because we're much more vulnerable today than we usually are. We are together with the same people 24/7. We don't always have our lipstick on and our, tummy tucked in. So we let ourselves be known. And this is really what creates intimacy. And there's just a little, an interesting exercise that you can do. It's called 36 questions that will make you fall in love. Actually, it was developed by Dr. Arthur Aaron. And if you want, you can just Google it, or you can text me later and I will send it to you. And these are 36 questions that you can just do as an exercise and deepen your intimacy. Now, am I saying that it's going to be all lovey-dovey and you're not going to fight? No, of course not. But then we realize that it's a part of a healthy relationship. There can't be a relationship that is always lovey-dovey. And the last and not least is the emotional well-being. And I think this is extremely important today. Why is it important today? Because we are all flooded with emotions and they're all very, very strong. We're either anxious or we're scared, we worry. We're afraid, and on the other hand, we have positive emotions. Many of us feel very happy. We feel gratitude, we feel joy, but then we feel guilty because, people are dying. And also this is just like a big mixture of emotions that we need to kind of organize in ourselves. And, first of all, I want you to ask yourself, is anyone always happy? And people ask me, you're a happiness consultant, you're a happiness coach, and you learn happiness. So you're probably always happy. Far from it. People that know me know that I've had my share of problems and of sadness and of crying, and I can be angry and jealous and mean, all of these things. So really, there are only two kinds of people that don't experience negative emotions. One are psychopaths, that we know that they just don't have the ability to feel that. And the second are dead. So thank God I'm neither of that, and maybe you are neither either. And we just have to give ourselves the permission to be human. We need to accept all emotions, because what happens is that if we try to suppress the negative emotions, two things happen. First, they intensify. And second, we also block the positive emotions. See, all the emotions come from the same funnel, and when we become cold fish and we don't feel the negative, we don't feel the positive either. And the positive emotions are really the ones that are important to us today. What happens when we feel those negative emotions? First of all, we need to say to myself, okay, we have to really accept them and let them flow. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm a little anxious right now, or I'm nervous, I have a presentation. I get it. I think I'm just going to go out for a walk, or I'm going to watch a stupid movie. So we need to accept it and to act on it, but not to try and suppress it. And, for me, because I love chocolate, it reminds me that life is really like bittersweet chocolate, because we need the richness and the complexity, and not just a very, like a Hollywood, always laughing. It doesn't work that way. How are we going to know that we're happy if we don't experience sadness? We have to experience the two sides of the coin to appreciate the good ones. And let me put my glasses on, because this is really important. That I want to read you a part of the poem that was written by Rumi. It was a Persian poet in the 1300s. The poem is called The Guest House. And he says, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all." I think this really summarizes, this really summarizes the idea of the permission to be human. It's okay. Nobody is always happy. A very important part, a pillar of the emotional well-being is gratitude. Now, many researches have been done on it. Oprah was talking about it 20 years ago, and there's a lot of research showing how helpful keeping gratitude journal or any of those gratitude interventions, how helpful they are for your health. I actually, ever since I was a kid, I was at night thinking, oh, thank you for this and thank you for that. And it wasn't even in at that time. So whatever works for you is perfectly fine. I mean, if you pray or if you talk to yourself, or if you do it mentally, it's wonderful. But just do it. And I would just like to give you a couple of ideas of how to do that. So first of all is the gratitude journal. And gratitude journal is like you would write or you would mentally think about good things that happened to you today that you don't take for granted. And I'm not saying, about the same things every night. Okay, I'm thank you for my husband and for my kids and for, try to find things that happened to you today that you really appreciate, that help you through the day. And when you do that, really relieve that emotions. Really imagine it in your head. Don't just write it mechanically. It doesn't help, but you really have to live it. The second one is and also I want to say, why does gratitude journal, how come it influences so immensely on people from a 2 to 3 minute intervention a day, really? And they found that it really does two things. One, when you really live those positive emotions, they create some type of an upward spiral and you become much more positive. The second is that when you go through your day and you know that at night because Tami said I have to write a journal, so I have to look for things that I'm grateful for, you put your pink glasses on, if you will. So you look differently at things that happen to you and you are actually looking for benefits and for good things. So, try that. The second one, actually, it's an exercise that was invented by Dr. Marty Seligman, who's considered to be the father of positive psychology. And he said, you should write a thank you letter for somebody that we're thankful for, who did something really good for us, who helped us in our life, and deliver this letter to that person. And this really benefits the person who writes and the person who accepts in unbelievable ways in research that has been done. So, this could be a great time for us to sit at home and think, who am I grateful? Somebody who really did something good for me that I would like to thank. We can try and write them a thank you letter. And the third one is the positive future journal. This talks about, every morning, think of three things that you're really excited about, things that will give you hope. Now, this hasn't been shown to help being happier, but it has been shown to be less depressed. And why is that? Because what is depression? Depression is sad without hope. So we can be sad, but as long as we have hope and we cultivate it on a regular basis, it prevents depression. So this exercise is really about hope. And I'm just thinking to myself, wow, tomorrow I think I'm going to have my house cleaned. So it makes me happy. It gives you something, whatever it is that makes you happy to look forward to. Think about it, okay? And before I end this, because it was a lot of information, and you may say tomorrow, wow, she was great, and it was interesting, or it wasn't, or whatever. But for me, it's important that something is going to stick and something you're going to take home with you. And I want to tell you a little story about Peter Drucker, who was a very known management consultant. And he worked with the world's biggest CEOs. And when he got older and he couldn't give those lectures anymore, he would invite people to his house for a weekend retreat and teach them, about management. And at the end of that retreat, he always said, on Monday, don't tell me how great it was. Tell me what you're doing differently. So first of all, don't wait until Monday to tell me how great it was, and adopt something from everything that we said today. See what really fits you. And I want to give you a couple of really basic tools to do it. So the first one, do a Spire check. What is a Spire check? You check your well-being in those 5 elements that we spoke about. How do you do it? So for each element, you give yourself a value from 1 to 10. You ascribe a number from 1 to 10. Spiritual, I think I'm 9 right now. Physical, 6. Intellectual, maybe 8, and so on and so forth. The second phase is you just write why. Why did you give that number? So, maybe on physical, I'm only 6 because I really don't do enough and I gained 3 pounds. Maybe on relationship, I'm 4 because I didn't see my kids and, I had a terrible fight with my husband, or whatever it is, write it. And the third one is prescribe. And this is really the most important one, is what is this one step that I can take to give it a little bit, to make it a little bit higher. So if I'm 6, how can I be 6.5 or 7? Nothing heroic, no big, big things, but one little thing that I can do that will improve it. Now, this Spire check, we can do on a weekly basis, we can do on a monthly basis, and you will see how it changes. It's really fluent because, you know, some weeks you're so happy and you can be like, okay, I'm like 9 and 10 almost in everything. And the next day, you know, I can feel really, I'm a 6 at that and a 5 at that. Let me choose 1 or 2 interventions that I can use. And I collected them and I put them together for you. And I suggest, you know, we'll go over it. And maybe you want to take a picture with your phone of those things, or you're going to email me at the end and I'll send it to you. And this is basically a summary of what we spoke about today. So one, why don't you start a 10-minute meditation? There are a couple of apps that I recommend. One of them is Headspace. The other one is Calm. You can try them. They're free, and you can just start a 5 or 10 minutes meditation. I mean, if I did it, believe me, you can do it too. Try to do informal meditation. I don't know if you have a garden, sit or listen to nice music, and try to be in awe from something that is around you. Adopt a healthy diet. Stop with that chocolate cake, and start some formal exercise. Again, you want to download maybe Peloton, YouTube, Zumba, Pilates, Nike, whatever there is. Try to do some type of a formal class. The other one is take a 30-minute leisure walk daily. You can reframe it just like I did and say, I don't like to exercise. I'm just going to walk outside. Schedule a Zoom party or happy hour. Take the 36 question to deepen your intimacy. Start a self-discovery journal. Take intentional breaks from news. Silence your notifications on your cell phone. Read a novel. Listen to classical music. Register to an online course. Again, a lot of resources. You have Udemy that have many classes. You have the Whole Being Institute that gives great courses in positive psychology. You got masterclass. I think Harvard is just published that they're giving some of their classes for free now, so you can register. Accept your negative emotions. If you want to cry, if you want to write about it, talk about it, and do something about it. Start a gratitude journal. And I think really a gratitude journal is a very low-hanging fruit, because from a very short effort and short, you will gain a lot. So this is something that if you're not doing already, I highly recommend that you do and make it work for you. You know, if you want to do it mentally, do it mentally. Write a thank you letter and send it to someone. I can give you my address at the end. Start a positive future journal and cultivate some hope in your life. And enjoy one daily undisturbed meal. You know, just be present and savor something with your family that is undisturbed. Last thing, if you choose any of those things, make sure that in order to make a change, that you ritualize it. You say, I'm going to walk every day at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to do repetitions. I'm going to do it for 5 days, for a month. Otherwise, if there's no habit, you know, it doesn't work. And the other one is set reminders. I have to remind myself to do it. So, you know, I just put my sunscreen next to my, you know, in my bathroom, and I remember in the morning when I put my sunscreen, I'm like, it smells good. I really want to go outside. Okay, so you know what I say? It's not enough to buy the broccoli and put it in the fridge. You actually have to eat it in order for it to work. And I would like to end with this quote that is really relevant for us today. Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. Don't look at what others are doing. You know, don't compare yourself to them and your efforts to them. Make your life better. And by doing that, I think we will actually be able to see that the world is becoming a better place. And just to finish it, this is just my information. I know that it was a lot that we spoke today, and it's really difficult to do it on a Zoom that I don't get your, you know, I don't get your feedback and your interaction. But, you know, we have to live with what we have to live. So this is my email address. It's tamarmuller@gmail.com, and my phone number. And if you're interested in anything that we said today, if you want me to send you the PowerPoint presentation, please email me, and I will be very happy to send it to you, or just send me an email or text telling me, you know, it was helpful, or, you know, I'm 5% better today than I was before. And again, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.